What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and I want to welcome you to Subclass School, the series where I teach you everything you need to know about every subclass in Destiny. So a couple disclaimers to start. These videos take a ton of time and effort to produce, so leaving a like on the video would mean a lot to me. Let's shoot for 10,000 likes on this one. Next, I do all my own testing, but I also use the Destiny Data Compendium to cross-reference my findings, or for certain values like damage resistance. It's an extremely great resource, and I leave a link to it in the description of every single one of my videos. So shout out to the wonderful people who work on that spreadsheet. Also, when doing my testing, I don't use any aspect, fragment, or mod that could interfere with the testing. So you are seeing everything at its base level, so that you know exactly how it works at a baseline. Next, a big thank you to my friends and clanmates who help me test the things that require 2 or more people. It means a lot. And lastly, I am trying to reach 50,000 subscribers before the final shape, so do me a solid and hit subscribe. I know it seems like a lofty goal, but nearly 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. Now, I'm not too bad at math, so if we can bring that closer to even 50%, then I know we can reach 50k in no time. I have a ton of great content planned, so I know you won't regret it. Anyways, that's it, let's get into the video. Alright, the final installment of the Subclass School series. I just want to say thank you all for watching the videos. I hope you liked them because holy fuck, it was a lot of work. 20 videos breaking down pretty much everything every subclass has to offer is very time consuming. I wanted to make these videos since the 3.0 subclasses came out, and I designed the thumbnails back in October and finally got going on the videos themselves in January. I will not lie, my motivation to do this last one is pretty low. I love testing things in Destiny, but after doing it for 20 videos, it does get pretty monotonous after a while. I'm a tester at heart, and I like finding cool interactions, but then to script it all, get just the right footage, and put it all into video form is a lot. These videos took way more time than I was expecting. But it means a lot when you guys comment that you learned things and that it was helpful, because that was my intention with making these videos. There are lots of void abilities to cover. We have Blink on Warlock as a special jump, and then we'll be covering all the melees, grenades, and supers. There's quite a bit to go over, so let's just jump right into it. We will get Blink out of the way first. This is a jump that is unique to Arc Hunter and Void Warlock. It says, jump while airborne to teleport a short distance. So this works just like the Arc Hunter Blink, and it can be enhanced with the exotic Astrocyte verse. There is a slight cooldown after you blink twice, and it will take some getting used to if you are trying to traverse jumping puzzles with it. Now let's look at the melees. There are only 4. The Hunter has a snare bomb which states, throw a smoke bomb which attaches to surfaces and pings enemy radar. Weakens targets on detonation. The compendium lets us know that the weaken is for 8 seconds, which is really good, and it also pings the radar in PvP, so you can use it as a radar manipulation tactic to throw off other guardians. It also slows players and enemies, which can be very useful, and you can quickly throw a smoke and then a grenade to perform a wombo combo and get some easy kills in the Crucible. Next, we have the Titan melees. First is Shield Bash. After sprinting for a short time, use this melee ability to unleash a devastating Shield Bash that suppresses the target. Final blows with Shield Bash grant an overshield, so this is a pretty good melee. The suppression effect can take guardians out of their super in PvP and stun enemies in PvE. And you can also use it as a movement tool, but it will use up 15% of your melee energy. This is so that you can't spam it in PvP for constant quicker movement, and it deals decent damage as well. And next we have the Shield Throw. Hurl your Void Shield toward a target. The shield can ricochet off targets and surfaces, granting overshield for each target hit. It can ricochet up to 3 times and grant 15 HP to your overshield for every hit. This melee doesn't do much damage, but it is nice because it is a ranged melee option, which can be really good in higher end PvE a lot of the time. And the second chance exotic gauntlets can make your shield throws weaken targets and stun barrier champions for even more utility. And now we have the Pocket Singularity melee on Warlock. Launch an unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it nears a target, pushing them away from the blast and making them volatile. Sadly, I rarely save PvP clips, but this thing is great in PvP for shutting down shotgun rushers. It has a lot of utility there. In PvE, it's quite weak, but it does proc volatile, which is nice. So that is it for the melees. Now we'll check out the void grenades, starting with the Axiom Bolt. This is a bolt of void light that forks on impact into smaller bolts that seek out targets, so it just releases 2 tracking orbs. This grenade doesn't do much damage at all. They used to be really good in PvP, but they did get nerfed. Next is the Magnetic Grenade, a grenade that attaches to targets and explodes twice. This is a good single target damage grenade, but it's not good for ad clear. You can also run this with Chaos Accelerant to make it into a handheld supernova. Next is the Scatter Grenade, a grenade that splits into many submunitions and covers a large area with multiple explosions. This is really good in PvP, as it's pretty forgiving and deals high damage if the submunitions all hit a player. It can even one-shot Guardians at max resilience, and it's pretty decent in PvE as well. Next is a Suppressor Grenade, an explosive grenade that suppresses, preventing targets from using abilities for a short time. So this is a utility grenade. It is not used for single target damage or ad clear, but rather to suppress enemies so that they cannot attack. It can also shut down supers in PvP, which is very effective, and shut down Lucent Hive supers as well. It's quite similar to a blinding grenade. It's great in high-end content because it disables dangerous enemies for 10 seconds. Next is the Void Spike, a grenade that attaches to any surface and emits a torrent of damaging void light. These aren't great for PvE because you kind of need walls to stick them to be effective, but they do deal good damage, and they are really nice in PvP as well for hitting enemies behind cover. The Void Wall is a grenade that creates a horizontal wall of burning void light. This grenade deals nice damage over time and used to hit really hard in PvE, but it got nerfed. But it's still a decent option for PvP and for PvE, so long as you're accurate with your grenades. And lastly, we have probably my favorite grenade, the Vortex Grenade. A grenade that creates a vortex that pulls targets inward and continually damages those trapped inside. These are awesome in PvE because they pull enemies towards them, so they are great for ad clear and single target damage. They are just really good, and they're decent in PvP as well. I've gone flawless a few times with Controverse Hold Warlock and these grenades. Now we move on to the supers, starting with Hunter and the Deadfall Shadow Shot, aka Single Shot Tether. Tether foes to a Void Anchor, weakening and suppressing them for you and your allies. The Void Anchors fired from the Shadow Shot pull targets towards the impact point, which then become traps and wait for prey. Void Anchors have increased range and last longer. So this super is incredibly effective in high-end content. It provides a 30% weaken on enemies, so it is great for boss DPS phases, and it's also amazing for group ad clear as it tethers them all, and as you deal damage to one target, they all take damage, allowing you to clear out huge swaths of enemies with just one tether. And as you get kills on enemies that are tethered, it extends the duration of the tether anchor point, which can last for over 30 seconds in total. I just love this super so much. I used to main Orpheus Rig Hunter way back in the day, just chaining tethers. If you use it in the right spots, there aren't many stronger supers in the game. Next is the Mobius Quiver Shadow Shot. This reads, tether foes to a void anchor, weakening and suppressing them for you and your allies. Fire 2 volleys of 3 void arrows that seek nearby targets. Shadow Shot makes targets volatile and deals increased damage to tethered targets. Defeating tethered targets creates orbs of power. So this one is the more high damage variant of tether. It doesn't last as long, but the tether itself hits enemies much harder, and in addition to 30% weaken and suppressing them, it also makes them volatile. This super is also very good. Which one you want to use just depends on the combat encounter. And then that brings us to Spectral Blades. Summon a pair of Deadly Void Blades and stalk the battlefield in a veil of shadows. So this one has a light attack swipe and a heavy attack that makes you invis and also applies weaken. But the heavy attack uses lots of super energy. So ideally you would do one heavy attack to weaken an enemy and then swipe away with your light attacks. You can also spam Trapper's Ambush while in this super. That being said, the super is not really used in PvE ever. It is more of a PvP super. Tethers are just so much better in PvE in my opinion. Next we have the Titan supers, starting with Sentinel Shield. Summon a Shield of Void Light. Guard with Sentinel Shield to create a defensive wall. Allies who shoot through the wall have increased weapon damage, and guarding allies makes the shield last longer. So the compendium gives us some good info here. The more allies you are protecting with your shield, the slower the super drains. And your allies deal a whopping 40% increased damage and get better handling and reload speed. But to use this in a DPS setting means that you're missing out on one person's damage, but it's still very strong. With just one weapon surge of 10% plus the 40% it provides, you hit for 54% more damage. 3 surges would take this up to 70.8% more damage. It does not stack with Radiant or Lumina though. Don't worry, I tested a myriad of things to see what could potentially stack. This is just the Spark Notes version. Also, the Aspect Offensive Bulwark gives you an additional shield throw while in this super. So you don't just have to use the shield block with this super, it can be really effective offensively too with shield throws and bashing enemies, and it's especially good with the exotic gauntlets Doomfang Pauldrons. Next is Warden of Dawn, aka Bubble. Create an indestructible dome to protect you and your allies. Passing through Ward of Dawn grants you and your allies a temporary increase to weapon damage. So this is a 25% increase to weapon damage, just like Radiant. Therefore, it doesn't stack with Radiant, but it will stack with things like weapon surges and debuffs like Weaken. The bubble itself lasts for 30 seconds, and it gives you 15 seconds of Weapons of Light every time you pass through it. It also gives you an overshield when you're inside it from Armor of Light. But when you step outside, you will not have the overshield unless the person that casts the bubble is running the exotic helmet, Helm of Saint 14. Also, when you cast this super, you get a grenade charge back. I tested this with Armamentarium to see if it would give 2 charges, but it is only 1. Still, it's very good to know. You could weaken a target with an Echo of Undermining grenade, then pop bubble, and then when the weaken wears off, you could reapply it with the refresh grenade charge. The strength of your bubble is tied to your resilience stat, but with how strong Rezel is, especially on Titan, you should always be running 100 resilience anyways. And we're also getting a new Void Titan super in the final shape, so I will try to cover that when the time comes. But for now, let's move on to the Warlock and look at the Cataclysm Nova Bomb. Hurl an explosive bolt of Void Light at a target, disintegrating those caught within its blast. Nova Bomb travels slowly and seeks targets. Detonations shatter into smaller Seeker projectiles. So this Nova Bomb variant is often referred to as Slova Bomb, and it is the superior Nova Bomb in my opinion. Its Seekers track to targets, so it's better for ad clear, but it also does better single target damage in most instances. Because unless a target is perfectly still when you hit it with the Vortex Nova, then it won't deal as much damage. The one downside to Cataclysm is sometimes enemy projectiles can hit the Nova Bomb and cause it to explode prematurely. Don't you hate when that happens? And speaking of Vortex Nova Bomb, it states, hurl an explosive bolt of Void Light at a target, disintegrating those caught within its blast. Nova Bomb creates a singularity that pulls targets inward and continually? Yeah, okay. Maybe continuously? I don't know. I'll be honest, some of Bungie's wording on these subclass descriptions is really weird to read. Or maybe I'm just losing it after my 20th video. Anyways, that pulls targets inward and continually damages those trapped inside. So to me, the only benefit of this Nova Bomb is that it travels faster, which can be beneficial in some instances. And it also can't be shot down by enemy fire. But the Slova Bomb tracks, so it is more forgiving than this one. With this one, if you miss, you're screwed. As for Nova Bombs as a whole, as someone who loves Void Warlock, I think they need a damage buff in the final shape. With the amount of power creep we've gotten, Nova Bombs have not kept up. The Needlestorm super on Strand Warlock hits much harder than it for a one-off damage super, so hopefully it gets buffed. And that brings us to the final super, Nova Warp. Step between dimensions to subvert the laws of physics, so you're actually able to teleport in your Nova Warp even if you're not running Blink. This super is great for traversal and covering ground quickly, and as an ad clear super, it's actually pretty good. It's really nice to have an ad clear option instead of just picking between 2 one-off supers in the Nova Bombs. You charge up your light attack and it applies volatile when it hits. This is actually a good super even though it doesn't see much play. That is because one-off supers are currently the kings in Destiny. Our subclass neutral game is so strong that we don't really need ad clear supers anymore. And that is going to do it for the Void abilities, and for the subclass school series. If you missed my other videos breaking down every single thing about every subclass, then seriously, go give them a watch. I guarantee you'll learn something. And if you watch them all from start to finish, then wow, I don't even know what to say. Thanks so much for the support, and I do hope you enjoyed them. I really like testing all these things and learning all the little intricacies of every verb, fragment, aspect, and ability. It will definitely make me a better build crafter in the future, and I can't wait to bring you tons of awesome builds in the final shape when we get a new artifact to play around with. I have so many amazing ideas already. But I'm very busy in real life leading up to the final shape, so I won't have very much time to really make them until June, unfortunately. But yeah, just know that there's some crazy strong builds on the way. If you are still watching, then thanks so much for watching to the end. It means a lot. Leave me a like and a sub on the video and all that stuff. I know I started this video kind of complaining, but that is just because these videos have been a freaking grind. So I'm really looking forward to doing some more creative stuff instead of so much analytical and data-driven stuff. Anyways, I can't wait to bring you more good content in the near future. Take care.